Hey guys, so I'm just back, and what I'm gonna do today is talk about a starting slash beginner deck for those that are starting out on Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And this deck will carry you through most, if not all, of the solo challenges, and maybe in a little bit of competitive. And this is more on a budget side of things. And so this deck doesn't really cost much to make, and you can kind of build however you want to build it. It's pretty simple, pretty basic. It's just a regular Monarch deck. They do give you basically they do give you this deck kind of for free, as when you're starting to play solo mode. I think it's like the second, yeah, it's like the second um, or third thing right here. This right here. So you play Absolute Monarch, and basically you can it's not too difficult, but you should be able to get through the challenges. And I think um, at this right here is when you complete the practice. You cannot actually lose playing it. I think it kind of hand holds you through it. This is the only one you really have to complete, where you have to either play with a loner deck, or if you have a deck, you can play with your deck. Play with the loner deck, you beat that, and then right here is when you unlock the Monarch deck. Once you unlock the Monarch deck, it's very no thrill, very basic. Just have a monster on board. You summon one monster on board, wait a turn to go ahead and summon your Monarch next turn, which is kind of slow for Monarch. So um, this right here, I built this on a budget. It mainly uses just rare cards and um, maybe one or two common cards. Um, Rare cards are pretty easily acquired in the game. When you open packs, you'll get a bunch of rare cards. Like I have more rare cards disenchant than I do with common cards, which is kind of weird. So anyway, so you get a bunch of rare cards, and this deck essentially costs, I think, about nine to nine to 12 rare cards, which sounds like it's a lot, but it really isn't. For a deck like this, 12 rare cards is not that much. And I'll kind of explain to you what cards you need to craft and how the deck should shape out to be. And it's a very viable deck to take in the solo modes and beat most of the computers fairly easily. Um, this deck is built mainly going second. You like going second with this deck if you can. Going first with this deck doesn't really, you don't really do too much going first, but um, you use most of the cards that they give you for free in the game that you unlock, and then just the 12, like I said, just the 12 rare cards that you do um, happen to use. The most expensive card that you might have to craft uh, is Pot of Extravagance, and this is totally optional. I had it for another deck, but you don't really need to craft this card at all. So the cards that you need to craft would be Idea or Ida. I think it's how you pronounce it, Idea or Idea. I don't know, from wherever part of the world you're from, it's pronounced differently. So you need to craft three of these. You need to craft Idios or Idos. Idos. Sorry for my pronunciation. So that's six rares right there. You get all the monarchs for free, so you get a pair of each of them, and then you may want Soul Exchange. So obviously Stormforth, Monarch Stormforth is a better card. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this card right here, the Monarch Stormforth. However, it's a super rare, so super rares aren't as easy to get, and honestly, for against the computer, Soul Exchange just basically does the same thing. And so I decided to just go with the rare card and not craft the Stormforth. Obviously, if you're gonna build this deck into the hyper competitive Monarch deck, you're going to need Stormforth for sure. You're going to need a couple of other of the Monarch cards, like Pantheism, stuff like that. So you're definitely gonna need Pantheism. You're gonna need Tenacity. You're definitely gonna need probably Domain. And so those cards are gonna get a little bit pricey. You're gonna also want the tribute, the double tribute monarchs, namely Aether and Erebus, and maybe one or two of the Mega Monarchs. And I don't think you really use the regular Monarchs, but yeah, if you're going to make this deck into the competitive version of the deck, then you're going to need that. So this is just the non-competitive, the really budget version of the deck. So that's why I opt to play Soul Exchange. So that's another 3 rares there. I had Pot of Extravagance, as I mentioned, for another deck. So because you're playing Pot of Extravagance, you can throw any 15 cards you want from your extra deck into the extra deck. So I just threw a bunch of random stuff I had. It doesn't matter what you add in here. Just have 15 cards, or even 12. If you don't have 15 extra deck cards, just put in 12, just so you can play Extravagance, banish 6 of them, doesn't matter, and you can draw 2. You're never gonna summon anything from here, so don't worry about it. You can play a couple of cool link monsters if you like, but I think for the most part, Monarchs do not use any sort of links. They don't use synchros. They don't really do anything with the extra decks. So just Pot of Extravagance in there is fine enough. This card is optional, but I play the one of. It's not a bad card. The next most important card in the deck, though, is going to be Return of the Monarch. This is kind of your value engine, your way to kind of search your Monarchs and to continuously generate a threat every turn or an answer every turn. And this is how you're going to be doing it. It's a once per turn effect, so you can't stack them, but you do want to see it. That's why you're playing 3 copies of it. And we don't really have much draw power. Our entire match kind of depends on our opening hand. So if our opening hand is kind of bad, we may brick, and that's fine because we're playing this against this computer. It's okay to restart the game, draw a fresh hand, and then play from there. But doing that, this is like the easiest way to kind of beat through most of the CPU without having to spend too much cards. While you're saving most of your supers and your ultras for a actual competitive deck that you might be building to play in the versus mode. Another card I have is Torrential Tribute, just a really basic card to blow up the whole field. If you have this, it protects yourself from Torrential Tribute. So this is just another optional card that you can use. You get a free Solemn Judgment from the bundle. If you do buy the bundle, the Solemn Judgment is free, and it's not a bad card, so I'll throw it in there. You do unlock Raigeki and Monster Reborn off of the first couple of solo modes, so those are also good cards to add to the deck. Same thing with Reinforcement Army. I think you get this from a mission, but I don't quite remember. So Reinforcement Army you can also add. These you get from a structure deck called the Haunted. I got it from, I think, the Blue Eyes structure deck. And then this I think you can just craft. So you do need to craft 5 common cards, so it'll be these 2 plus that. So the next strategy is really simple. If ideally you get it. Ideally you get Idea in the hand, and you summon Idea to summon Eidos, and then that will allow you to summon a Monarch. So it gives you tribute fodder, a body, and you'll be able to additionally normal summon a Monarch. Or if you summon an Idea Eidos, you can also just summon a Monarch based off that. Same thing with this. So all 8 of these cards here are just fodder for you to be able to summon out any of the Monarchs. Hopefully you have March Return of the Monarchs here, so that you can continue to generate more Monarchs in your hand to use as a threat. Obviously, the worst Monarchs would be Grand Marg and Zaborg. Since all the Monarchs are basically mandatory effects, you gotta be careful when playing them. You cannot play a Zaborg on an empty board. He'll just kill himself. Same thing if you have set cards and your opponent doesn't have any set cards and you play Grand Mark, you're gonna be destroying your own cards. So that's the tricky thing about Monarch, is you gotta pick the right one for the right situation. The only optional effect one is gonna be Mobius, but Mobius is not that strong. He is strong against the CPU. CPU tends to set a bunch of cards in their back row and not think about it, and so the Mobius can definitely punish the CPU quite well. And yeah, so that's just the basic deck. So you got like a bunch of fodder. This can be a body, and these are just fodders. The deck likes going second, so if you get the chance, try to go second. There are a couple of decks that might OTK you. The hardest solo I found so far to play against is gonna be the Gem Knight solo solo missions. So I completed most of them so far, so I'm I'm like halfway through the solo modes, but it's the gotta be careful of this one right here, the Gem Knights. For some god awful reason, they made this specific solo mode so difficult. Like, I don't know why, but they give you, especially if you're playing with your deck, it's not too bad. But if you're playing against a loner deck that they use, holy, I had to like retry it 5 or like maybe 10 times just to beat it, because the loner deck they give you is really bad. It's just not that good, and the deck that the AI play is capable of OTKing you in one turn, and it's just that crazy. Like, it's and they're very consistent compared to your deck. So just be careful of that. I think that's the hardest one out of all of them. The most confusing one I found was going to be with the Megalith. I don't play Megalith, so I have absolutely no idea what they do. I really enjoy playing Gladiator Beast. It's kind of a throwback, but yeah. So so far I've used the Monarch deck all the way up until the Gladiator Beast. Right now I've more or less almost completed my actual main deck that I'm going to be playing in competitive. So from here on, I might take the competitive deck into the rest of these challenges. But yeah, it should at least take you through most of these challenges, if not all of them. And it only really requires the 9 rare cards, or even 12 if you have extra rare cards. And like I mentioned, rare cards are really easy to get. A lot of the competitive cards in this game are mostly supers and ultras, and so you're not going to really be using your common cards, or you're not going to be really using your rare cards to make your competitive deck. For example, I'll show you 2 decks I'm trying to construct right now, and none of them really even use any rare cards. So this is the deck I'm almost completed. I'm still missing a couple extra deck cards I'm trying to acquire, but yeah, they would use like maybe like 5 rare cards, and the rest of it's like supers and ultras. Same thing with the extra deck. Extra deck is one of the most expensive part about the game in terms of real life and in the game. Like, almost every card is either super or ultra, so you just gotta be careful of that. Show you another deck I'm also making here. Yeah, so like if you're even gonna play like Invoke Shaddolls, you see how everything's a super or ultra. Almost nothing is a common. Maybe 1 common card here, and like a couple of rare cards sprinkled throughout. So yeah, just use your rare cards up for budget decks. Don't worry about them if you're gonna make something competitive. Unless it's like a low tier deck, then you're not gonna be using your rare cards at all. You're mostly gonna be using ultras and supers to make a quote unquote competitive deck. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoy. Hope it helps you somewhere to start off. You can definitely make this deck better, and you can definitely play that competitively if you do have those extra ultras, extra supers. Yeah, for Monarchs, I think it's just supers, right? Mostly supers if you want to make a competitive Monarch deck. Yeah, it's just mostly supers. You got these 3 cards are supers. That's an ultra, and these 2 are ultra. So it's like half and half. But yeah, I think the rest of the deck is fairly cheap to make. You guys shouldn't have any issues crafting it. Honestly, if you do have extra cards and you want to play the Mega Monarchs, which might be better than some of these ones, you can craft probably like the Ryza, the Caius. Although these 2 are supers, you might not want to. You might want to cast like you might want to craft the Teslos or the Ryza, and like take out like Zaborg and the regular and the Grandmog, or whatever you call it. Yeah, like you want to take those out and play these instead. These budget Mega Monarchs. And yeah, that's it. See you guys next time.